Hello everyone, and welcome back to our True Crime channel. Today we're diving into an ice-cold narrative of a case solved nearly 3 decades later, all due to present-day DNA technology. This is the tale of Stephan Smerk and the heartbreaking homicide of Robin Lawrence. But before we start, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our gripping true crime stories. On a quiet day in November 1994, the peace of the 8600 block of Reseca Lane in West Springfield, Fairfax County, Virginia, was shattered. Robin Lawrence, who worked in the promotions department of Merchants Tire and Auto Centers, was found tragically murdered in her home. The discovery came after her husband, who was on a work trip out of the country, grew increasingly worried when he couldn't reach her. Desperate for answers, he asked a family friend to check on his wife. What this friend stumbled upon was a scene of unspeakable horror. Robin had been brutally stabbed to death, a violence that left the community in shock. Even more heart-wrenching, her 2-year-old daughter was found in another room, thankfully unharmed, but now without a mother. The police were called to the scene, and the investigation into Robin's murder began, marking the start of a case that would remain unsolved for nearly 3 decades. Following the harrowing discovery of Robin Lawrence's murder, the scene at her home became the focus of an intensive investigation. The lead crime scene detective, Mark Garman, and his team worked carefully to collect evidence, hoping to find any clue that could lead them to the perpetrator. Among the collected items was a crucial piece of evidence, DNA. Despite the limitations of technology at the time, this DNA was carefully preserved and uploaded into CODIS, the national database for DNA, in hopes that a future match could be made. However, as days turned into years, no matches were found, leaving investigators and the community with more questions than answers. This critical juncture marked the beginning of a challenging period for the case. Without a match and with leads drying up, Robin Lawrence's murder investigation gradually went cold. The hope for justice seemed to dim under the shadow of technological and investigative limitations. Yet the preservation of that DNA evidence would prove pivotal, lying in wait for the day when advancements in forensic science could shed new light on this dark chapter. The transition from active investigation to cold case was not the end of the story for Robin Lawrence. Instead, it was a pause, a silent vigil kept by the evidence collected by dedicated officers like Detective Garman, awaiting the day when justice could finally be pursued with new vigor. As we zoom into 2019 on our timeline, detectives in Fairfax County rekindled their efforts with a modern-day approach to the Robin Lawrence case. The progress we're about to uncover mirrors the steps you see in this graphic. Detectives submitted the suspect's DNA, preserved since 1994, to Parabon Nanolabs, a name synonymous with cutting-edge DNA analysis. There, scientists converted the DNA into a digital file compatible with genealogical databases. Imagine it as translating an ancient script into a modern language that can trace back generations. With the DNA data digitized, the next step was a deep dive into GEDmatch. This platform, where individuals voluntarily submit their DNA to trace their lineage, became an investigative goldmine. Analysts cross-referenced the suspect's DNA markers with the database, pinpointing people who might unknowingly be related to the person responsible for this tragedy. Now, a genetic genealogist entered the scene, piecing together a family tree that stretched out like branches over a vast familial landscape. This wasn't a tree with leaves, but one interwoven with the DNA of ancestors and descendants. For 3 years, detectives navigated this genetic forest, validating connections and meticulously identifying where the suspect fit into this biological network. Parallel to this, Parabon was employing phenotyping, a process of predicting physical appearance from DNA. They synthesized a composite sketch, a face predicted from genes. When detectives laid eyes on this image, they weren't just looking at a drawing, they were seeing the potential face of the killer, rendered from the blueprint of his DNA. As they prepared to head to New York, this composite sketch in hand, the detectives had a name that topped their list: Stephan Smerk. The resemblance to the sketch and his place in the newly uncovered family tree marked him as a person of interest, a significant lead after years in the dark. As the video continues, remember that this story isn't just about the convergence of technology and law enforcement. It's about the persistence of hope in the face of uncertainty. Keep watching as we reveal how this intricate dance of DNA science and detective acumen led to a moment of truth in a decades-old mystery. As we bridge the gap between high-tech analysis and the human element of detective work, our story moves from the computer screens of Parabon Nanolabs to the bustling streets of New York. There, a crucial lead awaited the detectives. An individual named Stephan Smerk, whose DNA had surfaced as a potential match in their genealogical investigation. The detectives arrived with the intent to verify the findings from their genetic genealogy research. Smerk, a software engineer by profession and a father, was unaware that his life was about to intersect with an unsolved mystery. The detectives didn't approach him as a suspect. Rather, they saw him as a vital piece of a puzzle they had been trying to solve for years. In a twist of timing, they found Smerk in the midst of a routine household chore, disposing of the garbage. It was here, in this slice of daily life, that the detectives introduced themselves. Their exchange was cordial, professional. They explained their presence, their investigation, and requested his assistance in tying up loose ends that had lingered for too long. The story now takes us to a moment where the past and the future intersect. As the detectives engaged with Stephan Smerk, their respect and tact led to a cooperative exchange. Smerk, acknowledging the gravity of their investigation, consented to provide a new DNA sample. This act of willingness to aid in the pursuit of truth underscored the remarkable progress from cold case to potential closure. During this exchange, the detectives also gathered critical background information, confirming that Smerk was an active-duty US Army service member living on the Fort Myer Army Post back in 1994, the year of the murder. Interestingly, there seemed to be no direct link between Smerk and the Fairfax County mother, Robin Lawrence, adding layers of complexity to the case. With the new DNA sample secured, the detectives retreated to their hotel. In the quiet of their hotel room, as they prepared their departure, still reflecting on the day's work, a phone call cut through the silence. It was Stephan Smerk on the line, his voice urgent. "I want to talk, and I want to talk right now." Prompted by this unexpected turn, the detectives directed Smerk to call 911 and make his way to the local police station in Niskayuna, New York. As Smerk headed to the station, the detectives reached out to the Niskayuna Police Department, ensuring they were ready for his arrival. Under the somber lights of the interrogation room, the atmosphere was tense as Stephan Smerk prepared to share his side of the story. What followed was a series of exchanges that shed new light on the case, although the specific details of what was said remain under wraps, guarded closely by the authorities. This veil of secrecy adds an additional layer of mystery to an already perplexing case. Despite this, it's clear that the conversation was significant, marking a pivotal moment in the investigation. The why behind the crime remains elusive, veiled in ambiguity. The lack of a discernible motive or connection between Smerk and Robin Lawrence only deepens the enigma, leaving many to wonder about the true nature of the events that transpired that fateful day. The randomness of the act, as suggested by the scant details released, paints a chilling portrait of unpredictability, further complicating the narrative and leaving the community and observers grappling with unanswered questions. In the aftermath of his confession, under the austere glare of the interrogation room light, the reality of Stephan Smerk's actions began to settle. It's here we're reminded of the delicate balance in such investigations. Not every detail that emerges is for public consumption. Often the police keep certain information close to their chest, especially as they work towards a trial. Perhaps there are more layers to the motive that have yet to be revealed, or maybe the randomness is the only truth there is. Now, Stephan Smerk finds himself behind bars in New York, facing a second-degree murder charge for a crime committed over 30 years ago. It's a sobering end to a journey that began on a tragic day in 1994, and a stark reminder that the passage of time doesn't erase the reach of justice. Smerk is awaiting extradition to Virginia, where he'll be held accountable for his actions. As we near the end of our video, let's take a moment to ponder the journey we've been on. The twists and turns of this case have brought us to a place where reflection is inevitable. What went through Smerk's mind during these years? How does a case like this reshape our understanding of justice and closure? I pose these questions to you. How do you feel about the use of genetic genealogy in solving crimes? And what do you think it means for the future of cold cases? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're captivated by these deep dives into true crime investigations and the power of perseverance, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications on our latest uploads. For now, we sign off on this case, but not on the pursuit of truth that continues in courtrooms and across the landscapes of unsolved mysteries everywhere. Thank you for joining me on this profound journey.